Right, now because everybody's on Twitter, I'm going to start by getting everyone to smile and wave at my camera. So please, thank you. Great. Now, I'm going to tweet this a little later so you can all see how good looking you all are. Now, also, if you want to follow me, read about us, email, which is actually pretty old school now. This is the best way. So, first of all, thank you to everyone for coming here. And I really mean that because, do you know what? Startups are really important. So, if we go over to the United States, your peers created over 30 million jobs in the decade ending 2005. That's really important because actually established businesses over the same period lost over 10 million jobs. So you guys did a better job than they did. Now, in England, it's even more of a big issue. So 67% of all the private sector jobs in England come from startups and small businesses. That's almost half of England's GDP. So again, very important. And you know what? This is a really good time to do business. Pretty much all of the greatest businesses in the world, without many exceptions, were started in recessions. And I think this is a really exciting time. And do you know what? You're all superheroes as well. There's been plenty of surveys done about how entrepreneurs are viewed by communities, and more than 70% of the American population genuinely believe that the only way the American economy is going to succeed is with entrepreneurship. So you need to make sure that you all feel like this, because this is exactly who you are. So, back in 1996, there was two guys working on a research project in here. True story. And a couple of years later, they got their first venture capital seed funding, first seed funding check for $100,000. 10 years later, they employ over 30,000 people. They have a market capitalization of over $200 billion. And it's not just their investors' pockets they're lining. This business was also responsible in 2010 alone for almost $65 billion of economic activity in the United States. So this business is Google, right? Now, that's 10 years. And 10 years before that, these guys were sat in a room just like this, watching presentations from people encouraging them to be entrepreneurs. And the reason that we're really excited is because somewhere in this room, and I mean that, it's probably a few businesses like this. And from what I've seen of Portugal, this is a fantastic place to do business. There's a great infrastructure here. And I'm really excited to see the next generation of Larry and Sergey coming from here. So, I mean, we've already seen a few of these facts. So some of my thunder has been stolen, unfortunately. So we started in the early 90s in Silicon Valley. We're an entrepreneurship organization, and we're now the largest entrepreneurship organization in the world. So we have 13,000 members, 57 chapters, 14 countries, and in 10 years, we've created over $200 billion of economic value, which kind of means we made our own Google. And don't forget that pretty much everybody involved in our organization is a volunteer. So the way we do it is with three core pillars, which are networking, mentoring, which is... hang on. Great. Mentoring, which we've obviously heard quite a lot about today, and education. And actually, these are pretty much the three things which we've seen to be really important over the years. So very much at the heart of what we do is mentoring. So the concept's really simple. Each one of our global chapters connects with the most experienced entrepreneurs and professionals in their communities. These guys give up their time voluntarily to help the next generation of young businesses. And I don't just mean young people, I mean young businesses in their communities. So I've got 4 examples of, for you here from Manchester. So this guy here, Wayne Morris, came to us and he just said, I just really want to start a business. He didn't even know what he wanted to do. So his mentor sort of spent a lot of time with him, helping him understand where his passions were. So he launched a renewable energy company. First year's revenue was over £1 million. 3 years on, he's doing over £20 million in revenue, 150 employees, and 0 debt. He's never had to have a check of seed capital. The chap on the bottom right here, he started a tea company. He'd spent 2 years hunting for seed capital and he couldn't do it, so he came to us. Our mentors helped him refine his business model and understand really what investors wanted to see, and within 6 months he raised over $500,000 in capital. The top left's really important because, again, sometimes small businesses don't realize that you can fight big companies just as hard as anyone else. So the Kaufman Foundation, which is a massive entrepreneurship foundation, organized this thing called the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. And they came to Manchester and they said, we want to hold something in the northwest of England. We want to do it in Liverpool because of the Liverpool capital of culture. Now, there was 2 people bidding for this. There was actually a big shortlist, came down to 2. One of them was a multinational organization, billions of dollars in revenue. All they do is organize global conferences. They were pretty much a shoo-in. And one guy who started his business 6 months earlier, it was just him on his own and one of his friends who had an events company. And they were like, well, we really want to bid for this. So we were like, you know what, this is great. So a group of us got together as mentors to help him. So roll forward a year and they won the contract. And they actually hosted the biggest entrepreneurship event ever seen in Europe with over 4,000 entrepreneurs. And even Richard Branson came to talk there. So nobody can sit here and tell me that a small business can't compete. And Beulah London, they wanted to launch an ethical fashion label. They came to Thai to learn a bit more about corporate social responsibility. And a year later, these 2 girls won an incredible United Nations prize for their work preserving the rights of women around the world. So the next one's networking. Now, you see, networking, as most people see it, is just, you go into an event and you hand out some business cards and that's great. That's part of it. And also part of it's pitching. This is all what we see, but actually networking is about more than that. We encourage people to share experiences and ideas. So at our events, it's not just keynote speakers. Startup businesses and young companies also share the floor and share their stories because do you know what? I genuinely believe that people are going to be more inspired by people who are on that journey right now sometimes. It makes a big difference and also helps people understand what they've achieved and gives them a great deal of confidence. We're also really keen to create a peer network because you need to be around people that are also on the same journey as you, who are facing the same challenges as you. And that's, again, part of the networking thing. We also do some global events. So we've had people like Reid Hoffman and Larry Page come and talk. We do a global business plan competition called Thai Quest. And we actually had a program in Silicon Valley called the Thai 50. 4,000 businesses from around the world applied. 50 of them won. And through the Thai network, they received over $5 billion in venture capital as a prize, which isn't too bad. The final one, sorry for the really cheesy picture. I couldn't find a better one in time. It was either this or a kitten, so I thought this would be better. So we basically have a global education program called the Thai Institute. So in all of our chapters around the world, we partner with business schools and universities to deliver lectures on anything you could possibly need to create a solid business. In Manchester, we're pioneering a partnership with Goldman Sachs for very high growth businesses. So Goldman Sachs find the best businesses in the region, they put them through a very intense entrepreneurship program at the Manchester Metropolitan University, and then when these businesses come out 6 weeks later, we then take over and we mentor them. And this comes into schools too. So we have a global program called the Thai Young Entrepreneurs, which goes into schools around the world to teach children that entrepreneurship is not something you do if you can't get a job. It's something which should be a primary career choice. And this year, we're actually coming to Lisbon. So in July, we're bringing 160 of our most successful entrepreneurs, which includes investors, philanthropists, there's 2 or 3 billionaires dotted in there, and we're all coming to Lisbon to find out what's making this city tick, because we really believe that this is a great place to do business and a great place to invest. And the aim of this is that after this process, we're hoping to launch a chapter of our organisation in Lisbon to support startups, young businesses and entrepreneurs who want to grow. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm actually surprised that I got that before I'd finished. I was getting excited. So, for me as well, one of the big things I've found in every business I've mentored is sometimes they don't understand how important branding is. So I just wanted to give you something today as a bit of a takeaway, which you can apply into your businesses right now. Now, believe it or not, a brand is pretty much the most important, most sustainable, and potentially one of the most valuable assets your business will ever have. Brands are also immortal, and people sometimes forget this. So Coca-Cola was founded back in 1886, right? Skip forward to today. Nobody who was in that business the day it started is alive today. The product it made is not the same product we buy today. But the brand lives on. So this is how important your brands are. From the first day you step into that lovely incubator at Startup Lisboa or wherever it might be, you're creating something which is immortal. That's a hell of a responsibility, and not one that you guys should take lightly. This is a really nice big number, because big numbers always look great on PowerPoint. So just to give you an idea, the top 10 global brands in the world have a combined value of $432 billion against a total company value of $1.7 trillion. So what that means in real terms is that 24% of the value of the top 10 global firms in the world is in something which is intangible. It's in their brand. That's a huge amount of money. That's 2 Googles worth of market capital, which exists in the minds of people. Now, people sometimes tell me that branding's just in case anybody's a bit geeky like me, this chart just shows you the market capitalization of Yahoo, eBay, Amazon, McDonald's, Cisco, Coca-Cola, and Google, and it shows you in blue the proportion of their total value, which is actually just their brand. And so really, this is to underline how important that is. Now, people sometimes tell me, and I've actually heard it a few times during my visit to Lisbon, well, we'll worry about brands later. We're going to grow our business first. You can't do that. Your brand's got to be there from day one. And your brand has to start with an ethic. So, has everyone here seen TED Talks? Yeah? Great. Okay. If you go onto TED and search for this guy, Simon Sinek, and he does a talk about his golden circle model. And it's incredible. It's one of the most important, literally, if you guys do one thing this evening, go and watch this. And I'll tell you why. So, he said that businesses start with an ethic. Without an ethic, you really don't have anything. And an ethic is the reason you exist. So in his golden circle model, the what is the proposition. So the what is what you do. So the what might be, I make an iPhone. The how is how you deliver that proposition. So your how might be, well, we're going to have great user interfaces, we're going to create good-looking technology. But the why, this is your ethic. This is really, really critical. The why is your rationale for existing. So for Apple, their rationale is we want to humanize technology. Now, let me tell you, without exception, every single successful company in the world starts with the why, because your brand is about everything. It's about how you interface with your customers. Sometimes even how your cleaner might greet someone when they come into the office. Every single part of your business reflects your brand. Your brand has to be clear. It has to be clear to everyone what that ethic is through every part of your business. It has to pervade through all parts of your company culture. Every single person in your organization has to live and breathe the reason your company exists. You have to be consistent, which means you can't say to people, we're environmentally friendly, and then go and dump 100 million barrels of toxic waste in Nigeria, because actually someone's going to find you. And you have to have very, very good leadership. Now, startups can do all of this from day one, and they really have to, because believe me, the businesses we've seen like Google, Facebook, all these big names, from day one, they believed the ethic, they understood how that translated into a proposition, and they took care of all of these areas. Now, what I'm going to leave you with today is just a few thoughts on one of the biggest opportunities you guys have, which is the internet. Now, for the first time ever, brands are now two-way. You're not just sat there communicating with your audience like I am. Your audience can communicate back like I'm hoping some of you guys are doing over here. Oh yeah, exactly, like you're doing over here. There's also no hiding place anymore. Governments realized this a couple of years ago when WikiLeaks started telling people exactly what they were doing. So the United States lost some of its moral authority in the world, and lots of other things happened. I don't think it's going to be very long before there's a WikiLeaks for brands, meaning that companies will not be able to hide anymore. This is really important, and it's really important for companies in Lisbon as well. From the day that you open your doors, you're now global, straight away, right? From Lisbon, you have access to the Lusophone nations, excuse my pronunciation, but you have access to some of the biggest, most dynamic economies in the world. And there's very few businesses that you can create which can't reach a global audience. There's also new risks, Business cycles are moving very, very fast now. So when you invest the money at the start of your business, you have to be prepared for your business not having as long a life as you might think. You have to be prepared for competition coming to bite you a lot quicker. You have to be prepared for the fact that intellectual property is now incredibly hard to protect. So you have to be very clear what it is that makes your business great. And that's the ethic, because very few people can copy that. But that said, this is a really good time to start a business. You can walk into an incubator and start business today if you want to, if they're still open. You can build, you can collaborate, you can work with people all over the world to do really, really exciting things. But for me, there's one really profound opportunity that I would urge all of you to consider in your businesses. So 80% of the world's population, which is about 5.6 billion people, live on less than $10 a day. They're largely excluded from the world economy. They're largely excluded from the products and services that most companies sell. But bear in mind, that market is a magnitude larger than the market that we currently have. That gap is filled by social enterprise, which are for-profit businesses that do social good. I genuinely believe that the next generation of billionaires in the world will be businesses that reach this audience of 5.6 billion and help the world become a more equitable place. I thank you very much for listening. I'm just about in time. Thank you.